Real quick before we get into the video, shout out to Captain Bake, whose Can You Be Fallout 4's House MD video was the inspiration for this idea. I saw them do it in Fallout 4 and thought, that needs to be done in New Vegas. I'll have a link to their video down in the comments, be sure to go check it out after watching this one. Also, I've never exactly seen an episode of House MD, so I'm actually basing my rules for this run off of a Reddit post. Basically, the only weapons I'm allowing myself to use are golf clubs and canes. Specifically, I'm going to be using the 9-iron, Driver Nafai's golf club, and the dress cane. Secondly, I'm not allowing my agility to ever go over 1. This is kind of a replacement for the limp that Dr. House has in the show, because Fallout New Vegas is, of course, a very glitchy masterpiece. And unless you want to commit yourself to just walking and never running the entire game, having a broken leg, even though it probably should, doesn't actually affect your movement at all. And then my last couple of rules are just things I need to do across the course of the game. I need to get my science and my medicine skills up to 100, and I need to develop a reliance on medics. And then, for storytelling purposes, since I've never seen an episode of the show, I decided to not actually play as House MD, and instead created my own character, who we'll just say has to go with the same limitations for some other reason. But full rules and build for this run are down in the description. If you like Fallout and generally Bethesda content, be sure to subscribe to this channel. Let's get into the run.
Let's see what the damage is. How about your name? Can you tell me your name?
My name is Dr. Joanna House. I was born in the Hub, one of the largest cities of the NCR. I was orphaned at a young age and raised by the followers of the Apocalypse. Now, growing up, I didn't know much about my family, but I did used to watch old pre-war holotapes of one of my ancestors, Gregory House, MD. Now, growing up, I kind of idolized him and wanted to be just like him, so I became a doctor. One day, I heard about a man in the Mojave with the same last name as me. It piqued my interest since House isn't exactly a common surname. I saw a job posting for a courier to deliver a small package, a poker chip, actually, to this Mr. House. I saw this as a chance to learn more about where I came from, so I signed up and became a courier. You've probably figured out by now that it didn't exactly go as planned. I was jumped by this guy wearing a picnic blanket and his 2 raider bodyguards, and they thought they had finished me off, but thanks to this local doctor named Doc Mitchell, I got better. But the platinum chip still is my key to learning more about my family history. I gotta get it back. After Doc Mitchell patched me up, I made my way to the shack that I'd stopped in for a rest right before I got jumped. There wasn't much in there, but they did leave behind my trusty 9-iron. Now I was ready to track down Mr. Picnic and take back the platinum chip. One of the locals had suggested the nearby town of Prim as my first stop, so I made my way there. The town had been overtaken by some escaped convicts, so I went into the Bison Steve Hotel, which was their base of operations, gave the convicts some golf lessons, and rescued Deputy Beagle. Beagle told me that Mr. Picnic had passed through there, but he had made his way onto Novak. The easiest way to get there was to go through Nipton, so I guess that's the path I'm taking. When I made it to Nipton, it was a ghost town. Caesar's Legion had wiped out the entire town and only left one survivor. Growing up, I had heard stories of this guy named Caesar, or as the followers knew him, Edward, who had grown up with the followers, but then one day just left and became a tyrant over near the Grand Canyon. But this was my first encounter with the people that Caesar led, and to think that someone who was raised by the followers, just like myself, was capable of this, well, it was disturbing. I gave the few who were still clinging onto life a mercy, and I continued on. And now for some insane whiplash, I'm going to break character for a minute because there is a line of things that happen now that I just have no way of explaining in character. First, one of the people who was up on the cross wasn't a powder ganger like usual, but it was a prospector, and when I tried to cut her down, she actually survived and pulled her weapon at me. And then when I surrendered, she accepted the surrender, but then got back up on there. In all my years of playing this game, I have never seen anything like that. And then on my way to Novak, I encountered a pack of Night Stalkers. I've never encountered anything nearly as strong as Night Stalkers this far east in this game. I have no idea what they were doing on the road here. And then when I got to Novak, I skipped over all the stuff in the RepCon test site and just got the information to get to Boulder City from Manny Vargas's terminal. It doesn't really make sense for my character to do this, but for some reason, every time I try to enter the RepCon test site, my game crashes. And that's not just saying, like, oh, for this run, it was crashing. No. Every time I try to go in there on the PC version of this game, that happens. Like, I literally don't have the Steam achievement for finishing Come Fly With Me because I can't enter the RepCon headquarters. Not the RepCon headquarters, the RepCon test site. I've played the game on like 3 different PCs. I've downloaded unofficial patches. Nothing seems to work. Every time I try to go in there, the game just will not let me. I don't know what is going on with my version of the game. Sorry for the rant. I just had to get that off of my chest. I usually don't come through here on my challenge runs, but because the character came through here, I just decided now's my time to get that off my chest. Alright, going back into character now. I left Novak and made my way to Boulder City. And I found Mr. Picnic's Raider guards. But not him. The Raiders, who were part of a tribe known as the Great Khans, told me that Mr. Picnic, whose real name was Benny, had actually decided he was going to stiff them and leave them behind as he made his way to Vegas. They gave me that information, along with Benny's lighter. I repaid their kindness by paying off the NCR to just kind of look the other way while they left, and I made my way on to Vegas. I made my way to Freeside, and at the gate to the Strip, I realized I'm too poor to get into Vegas. I decided to do some work around Freeside in order to earn the caps to get into the Strip. First, I found a base for the followers of the apocalypse in Freeside in the Old Mormon Fort and decided to do some work for them. I helped some people who had done some work for the followers in the past get clean from their addictions, and then set up a deal with the Garretts to supply the Old Mormon Fort with a steady supply of supplies. After doing my work with the followers, I still didn't have quite enough caps to get onto the Strip, so I did some work with the Kings in order to stop some of the violence around Freeside. And with that, I had finally earned enough caps to get into the Strip. As I entered the Strip, Victor came up to me and invited me into the Lucky 38 to meet with Mr. House himself. This was it. This was my chance to meet a living member of my family and get some more information on where I come from. I was kind of nervous as I made my way into the Lucky 38, but before Mr. House would tell me anything, he wanted the platinum chip. And that sounded a little strange to me at first, but it turns out the platinum chip is a data drive. There's some sort of data on it, and I don't know what it is, but maybe it's some sort of medical miracle. Maybe it's a way to grow food better with all the radioactive fallout around. This could be something great for all of humanity, so I made my way to the tops to track down Benny and get the chip. Once I got to the tops, I had Swank send Benny right on up to his room, where I confronted him. It didn't go like I thought it would, but I got the chip. I returned the chip to Mr. House, and he showed me what it was for. It was a weapon. It upgraded his Securitrons with rocket launchers, and well, I didn't know what to think. Mr. House revealed to me that he had been alive since before the bombs fell, and he remembered the holotapes that I had grown up on, the ones of House MD. They were fiction. The man I had looked up to my whole life, the man that I became a doctor to be more like, was just a character. My real ancestry was staring me in the face. This man that I was kind of, sort of, but not really standing right in front of right now, Robert House. My ancestry, my only living relative, was a despot, and he wanted me to take up the family name and help him secure his control over Vegas and the surrounding area. I didn't know what to do. My entire sense of who I was had just been completely shattered. I needed some time to think. I made my way back to the old Mormon fort and started just kind of helping out where I could. I got to talking with this guy, Arcade Gannon, whose family had been part of the Enclave. I asked him how he ended up here helping out the followers of the Apocalypse, and he told me something I'll never forget. He said that he didn't let himself get dragged down by the fact that his dad had been a soldier for the Enclave and he was gonna forge his own path. And that's when I had my realization. It didn't matter who my family was. I'm my own person. I'm free to build my own destiny, to define what the House family will be going forward. We're healers, not despots. There was just one issue. Mr. House was still trying to secure and expand his power. If I'm going to define the House family legacy going forward, I had to make sure his plans failed. I had received an invitation earlier, so I made my way to Ambassador Crocker, who wanted my help with the NCR's plans to take the Strip. I figured this would be a great way to stop Mr. House from gaining more power, so I signed up. His first job for me was to go make contact with the Boomers and make sure they would be on the NCR side in the coming battle. I used a few turbos to slow down time and make my way through their bombardments, and then got to work helping them out. I helped out where I could around the base, including helping their doctor heal his sick patients, and before I knew it, they sent me to raise a bomber out of Lake Mead. I got the rebreather from Jack and decided to swim under the water all the way to the bomber so that I didn't aggro the lake lurks, but that didn't work, so I had to take a few of them out when I resurfaced. They were honestly easier than I expected them to be. Breaking character again, I really didn't realize how good melee builds were in this game until I started doing these challenge runs. I returned to Pearl and enlisted the help of the Boomers. Next, Crocker sent me to strike up a truce with the Kings in Freeside, and since I'd already done some work for the King, I just asked him pretty please work with the NCR, and he agreed. Well, that was all the jobs Crocker had for me, so he sent me over to Hoover Dam to talk with Colonel Moore. Colonel Moore sent me to deal with the Great Khans. She wanted me to just completely wipe them out, but that's not really my style. So with one whack, I made sure Papa Khan didn't wake up, and then I convinced Regis to ally with the NCR. My next target was the Omertas. I made my way to Gomorrah, their casino, where I uncovered a plot from the Omertas to take over the Strip. Well, we can't have that one. That's exactly what the NCR is trying to do. So I blew up their guns and ended up taking out the entirety of the Omerta's leadership. Kachino was collateral damage. Like, he was actually on our side and everything, but he just kind of went down in the fight. Next up, the NCR had gotten word that Mr. House was going to be making a power play, which, yeah, I could have told you that. He's literally upgraded his Securitrons with rocket launchers. But I was sent to make sure that he could not make that power play. Now, I'm not a violent person. I'm a healer, after all. But I knew what I had to do. Mr. House had to go. I used my own trusty 9-iron, and just like that, I was the sole heir of the House family name. It was time for me to leave my own legacy. My next job for Colonel Moore was to deal with the Brotherhood of Steel. I made my way to Hidden Valley, and once I got into their bunker, they kidnapped me and slapped a bomb collar on me and told me to go get an NCR ranger nearby to leave. I smashed his radio and then returned to the elder who took the collar off of me. Now, I'm not a violent person, but something came over me in this moment, and I felt as if I had no control over myself. I found myself hacking into their turrets to make them turn on members of the Brotherhood of Steel and then standing by to watch the carnage. Once whatever eldritch being had taken control of me was satisfied with the carnage on the top floor, I found myself going into their basement and hacking into their main computer. I had to pop a Med-X because the withdrawal symptoms were hurting my intelligence, but I set the base to explode and got out of there. By the time I regained control of my body, the Brotherhood of Steel was buried under layers of rubble. Out of character for a second, y'all really didn't think I was going to pass up a chance to blow up the Brotherhood of Steel base, did ya? I returned to Colonel Moore, and she tasked me with protecting the president of the NCR. I figured the sniper's nest was a pretty good place for a would-be assassin to set up shop, so I climbed on up, and sure enough, a Legion assassin came up after me, so I took him out, radioed down to Ranger Grant, and the president was safe and leaving in his vertibird. Now all that was left was to stop the Legion's advance into the Mojave once and for all. I fought my way across the dam with relative ease, and when I made it to the Legate's camp, I wasn't able to talk him into a one-on-one fight, so I had to take on him and his backup. That's not to say it was particularly difficult though, because with the right chems and the right perks, melee builds proved to be the Legate's kryptonite. Seriously, he spent most of the fight either laying on the ground or running away. Once the Legate was down, I met up with General Oliver and beat Fallout New Vegas as Dr. House. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, subscribe, maybe even drop a comment. And a shout out again to Captain Bake for unknowingly providing the inspiration for this video. I'll link to their video down in the pinned comment. Be sure to go to their channel, give them some love. And until next time, bye!